the French wanted to keep the English out, and the English wanted to go over the Allegheny Mountains into what would later become the Northwest Territories. And they had fought about that, and the British won, and the French withdrew. But the French in Detroit did not withdraw. I mean, they'd been there for almost 100 years. You know, they got there at 1701, and they had quite a large settlement. Then they, when in the Revolutionary War, the British, it isn't in the annals, but one of the commander of Compost Company, which is, to give it the proper title, is St. Anne's Militia of Detroit. And he said that the story goes that the British commander said to the French in Detroit, you either fight with us or you get out of town. Well, a number of them left town. They went down river to the Raisin River and started a new community down there. Frenchtown Township and the city of Monroe were the result of that. But in Detroit, they stayed, particularly Joseph Campo and some of his people. He had a group, he had a militia group he'd started in the French and Indian War, and they fought the British. Then in the Revolutionary War, they fought with the British. Not that they wanted to, but he had enough land and property that he didn't want to leave town. So he stayed. And then when the French joined the Americans in the Revolutionary War, they wouldn't allow the French they allowed them access to the fort during the day, but not at night. Which I often wondered, I said, well, if the Indians fought or had a raid, what happened to them? They said, well, they just weren't allowed in the fort. But I found out later in my readings that the Indians didn't like to fight at night. That was part of their culture. They'd rather fight at dawn and then during the day. And it was a vivid time here in the Great Lakes. And then the people in Detroit, they started branching out. They wanted to get land, and they would follow the rivers. They followed the Clinton River up near Port Huron. They followed the Rouge River down here, went down and followed the Raisin River. And the Rouge, of course, is so large and it has so many tributaries that they just followed the rivers wherever they went. So this was, of course, a historical moment.